Thank you very much, Brian. So we will start now with the institutional session. And the first stakeholder is Gesine Meissner. She is well known. She's a member of the European Parliament. Please, Gesine. Particularly, she's a member of the Transport Committee in the European Parliament, where she has worked very closely with Brian Simpson for the last 5 or 6 years at least. And very importantly, she is chair of the European Parliament Intergroup on sea, rivers, islands and coastal areas. So more maritime than this, it is not possible. Gesine, please.
Okay. So, yeah, hello ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to speak here on behalf of the European Parliament, and it's always a pleasure for me to be close to Brian Simpson, who really was an absolutely fantastic chair, and I like to cooperate with him, although he was of another political party, but it doesn't matter. So now it's on motorways of the sea, and as was pointed out, really I'm coming from the north of Germany, and my first name, Gesine, it's a Frisian name, it comes from the coast. Maybe that's why I'm so passionate about ships, vessels, and maritime transport in general. That's why really it's a pleasure for me to be here. I have 4 points actually to mention. Some are similar to Brian's. I try to not really repeat what he said, but to add something additionally. My points are connectivity, in general. Second is environment, like Brian. Third is safety, and the fourth is growth and jobs. Connectivity, I think it was pointed out how important the ports are. Some even say it's not 35% of global transport, but even maybe 90%. I don't know. I like it better to say 90%. It's still more importance for the vessels and the motorways of the sea. And of course, that's why it's a very important corridor, so to say, although it's not a corridor, for the TEN-T network, and we have very much to focus on that. And besides, since the global-wide population is growing, the global-wide trade will grow as well. And of course, there will be more ships around the world. And since I work for that, and you, of course, as well, that Europe will stay as important as we are right now, even if we have a decreasing population, then it's very important to focus on ports, on motorways of the sea, and everything that is in a good shape. And of course we can improve something. We have to improve with the hinterlands of ports, for example, and we have to improve an inland waterway use. That's what Brian mentioned as well. And of course we should facilitate the whole ongoing transport. For example, with a single window in ports, it's not yet implemented, although it should be implemented by now. The directive were there, or was it regulation? I always mix it up, but the legislative process was there, and it's not yet done. That is something very important, connectivity to the world and within Europe. Second point is environment. And I think we are quite far developed, especially in the north of Europe, because of the Zika zones. You know that the Zika zones were implemented in the 1st of January 2015, and that's why everybody was forced to be progressive regarding environmental friendliness, and that's why LNG is quite far developed, as well as I just recently went by a zero-emission ferry from Stockholm to Turku. By the way, it's a very nice trip to go. When you ever have time, do it, please. And yeah, it's a zero-emission vessel. LNG terminals are in place over there in the Baltic Sea and the North Sea, because really people were forced to look for that. And I really would like very much that the IMO would propose something for the rest of the world as well. We have an unfair competition, so to say, for all those who go in the ports in the Mediterranean. Still, we are allowed to have 3.5% of NOx, in the Baltic Sea is only 0.1, and later on it will be 0.5 in the Mediterranean. It's still more. And of course, whenever you are kind of forced to be environmental friendly, you will progress in being that, really, and having the right infrastructure in place. And we have this Clean Power of Transport package in the Parliament. It was decided, and there the ports have time until 2022 to have LNG terminals everywhere available. At first, it was a quite fast process, especially in Netherlands, for example, in Germany, and in the north again because of the Zika zone. And right now it's a little bit slowed down because of the low oil price. I don't want to have higher oil prices, of course, but I would like to have a quicker implementation of LNG in place. And it's not only LNG, it's zero emission, it's something with hydrogen, and so many things are possible. Scrubbers is, of course, just an interim method you can use. Anyway, it's very important for the environment to have something in place that's good for the future, ready for the future. And that helps us as well to be competitive, because worldwide we have quite good knowledge that can be as best practice be brought to other parts of the world as well. Third point was safety. Safety, of course, is very important, not only because of the environment. We have double hull tankers in place right now. It's obligatory even on barges on inland waterways. And of course, we want very much to have safe trips. Ships are a very safe mode of transport, not only environmentally friendly in general, but as well safe. And I just want to mention something on the safety point, because it wasn't said before, but in the Parliament we focused as well on the impact of the refugee crisis on transport in general, on the logistic and transport chain. And of course you all know that in the Mediterranean some vessels which are dedicated to transport freight all of a sudden meet a rubber boat full of refugees and save them. Of course they're not ready to do so, and I hope that the refugee crisis can be solved insofar as the people can stay at home and have a safe life over there. But as long as it's ongoing, of course, it's another thing that really has to be mentioned. That's why I thought it's kind of safety or saving people's life, although motorways of transport are not dedicated to be in place for that. And last but not least, I mentioned growth and jobs. The Blue Growth Strategy actually does mention cruises. Cruises is really growing market, and cruises go to ports, they go on motorways of the sea, and they are part of the Blue Growth Strategy. But in general, there will be by far more jobs still in future in the motorways of the sea, and not only for boys, but as well for girls. I always like to underline that, not only because I'm female, but I know that, for example, a captain on a vessel can be a female as well. And I was asked once by girls in the school class A, and when I have a baby, what do I do then? And I said, in case you have a baby, maybe you can stay onshore and do education, whatever. So it's many attractive jobs, but we have to look for good skills and good possibilities for education, and in order to really have an attractive sector for everybody who can have a very good job in future in this case. And something else, just at last I wanted to mention, of course motorways of the sea and ports are as well involved in another alternative energy strategy, because you know that offshore platforms, they need maintenance, they need pieces that are brought outside on the sea, on the platforms, and so we have offshore terminals right now in place. It's a good opportunity for ports to develop further, and it will be more crowded even on the motorways of the sea, but I think we can manage it, especially because we have a very good coordinator. So I'm happy to hear all the other speakers, and I'm looking forward for the discussion afterwards. Thank you.
We show that we share common objectives, and that not all the monies are enough, but if we put them all working together for the same objectives, we'll do something about maritime transport. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the first person that is incarnating since my university professor in the early 80s that was discussing marine affairs, the first person that is putting out a vision, well, the Dutch vision, an integrated vision for maritime transport policy. Brigitte Dispers, and she's a director in the Ministry of Transport. So, please, Brigitte.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for the opportunity to speak here. And we organized during our presidency a high-level meeting on short-sea shipping, and actually I would like to focus on the results of that and the outcomes and the recommendations of that high-level meeting. Mr. Simpson has just given his presentation on the detailed implementation plan for the future orientation of the motorways of the seas, and I would like to give some first reactions taking into account the outcomes of the high-level meeting on short-sea shipping. The The 5 bullets, maybe they told me there was some thing to work on to put on the next slide, but there isn't.
Here it is.
This one?
The red one. The green. Okay, there it is. Thanks.
And the 5 points you see here are some items that could possibly give more focus to this implementation plan. They are linked to the recommendations of the short sea shipping meeting, and that I will present to you in my next slides. I think the bullets speak for themselves. With regard to the reduction of administrative burden, I would like to mention that this can not only help to support the attractiveness of doing business, but also can be beneficial for the attractiveness of the profession itself, the seafarers and the officers that are needed on board of the vessels and who might not be eager to do paperwork all day. So on the 15th of February in Amsterdam, we focused on 5 points. I have to work on this a lot. We came to recommendations, the next recommendations. Shipping is already, and it was already mentioned by Brian Simpson and by Georgina Meissner, shipping is a sustainable modality. It's an energy efficient modality because of the large volumes of goods that are transported. But still, there has to be done a lot. And in the conclusions of the COP21, shipping was not taken into account, but also shipping should become greener. And the ship owners associations already agree on this topic and on these conclusions. And therefore the high-level meeting came to the recommendation that the greening should be stimulated by EU co-financing with instruments like the Green Shipping Financing Tool. And of course, these 2 recommendations fit very well into the first pillar mentioned in the Motorways of the Seas implementation plan. And there is already, and it was mentioned by previous speakers as well, the techniques are already available. LNG, emission reductions, SOx, NOx, techniques, scrubbers, etc. The technique is there, but it is also necessary that it is financial possible for the shipping companies to invest in these. Another recommendation of the high-level meeting was the short sea shipping. Was that short sea shipping should be an integrated part of the whole logistic chain. So it is important not to start organizing the logistics chain when the container is put on the quay in a port, but think and organize from door to door, from origin to destination. Therefore, digitalization and standardization and exchange of information between the different modes of transport in a synchro-model logistic chain is necessary. And ratifying and implementation of the Rotterdam rules is a good instrument for this. And it's good to see that also in the Motorways of the Seas, in this implementation plan, in its second pillar, this policy is taken up. And when we are talking about transporting goods by sea and compare it by transporting goods over land, you must be aware that when, for instance, you want to transport oranges from Spain to the Netherlands, by road you need only 1 document. When you transport these goods by short sea shipping, it takes you 12 different documents. So we have to work on that. And therefore you can imagine that the 4th recommendation of the high-level meeting focus on the reduction of administrative burdens. The maritime single window is a good instrument for this, but then it should be implemented everywhere in the same way as a machine-to-machine instrument. And customs should be linked to it. We need for that the use of harmonized data. And also here, on the basis of the Rotterdam rules, the ship manifest could be helpful as a multiple used instrument, as a manifest which could be used also for the transport later in the chain. And the 5th recommendation is concerning blue growth, and it was also mentioned by a member of parliament that there are very much activities going on the sea. And she mentions the offshore platforms, but also think about windmill farms, and there are very many other activities going on the seas. And therefore it's necessary that also we are linked to the blue growth and integrated, and shipping should be part of the integrated maritime spatial planning. And also governments and those who are responsible for shipping should take an active interest in this maritime spatial planning to make sure that also in future there is enough space for shipping on our seas. And after good discussions in the high-level meeting on short sea shipping, and I guess here today on the motorways of the seas implementation plan, I would say let's get it done together. Thank you.
Very much, Birgit. We have now just attained 200 persons attending the workshop, which is a very large workshop. So Brian, you'll be happy with this. I think that the important thing is that Birgit led us to is this integrated vision, where maritime transport is integrated in the global transportation chain, and that's exactly the same objective we are pursuing. And we are trying to develop and identify new challenges. One of them is, what about the regulator's view on these integrated transport issues? And with you will be João Carvalho, a very good friend. He is the Portuguese regulator for transport, so the only thing it doesn't regulate is air transport. That's okay, but they will be on time anyway. He has a long past in shipping. He was a ship owner, and which is very good now being a regulator. You'll have to tell us how you move from one place to the other. But he has an experience of over 40 years in maritime transportation, ports, as a ship owner. Now he's the Portuguese regulator for maritime, for transport, all modes of transport except aviation. João, the floor is yours.
Thank you, José. Thank you, Brian, for the invitation as well. And thank you for listening to me and these very brief words. Of course, now I'm much more related with the road and rail as well as ports and maritime, because my organization, it's a part of being an official organization, I mean governmental organization. It depends from the Portuguese Parliament, and it's completely independent. And so we regulate these modes of transport, and as José mentioned, with the exception of aviation. What I have to say about these motorways of the sea together with the European port system, they are really key elements on this European maritime transport space without barriers, as well as for the transport single market. And we have now here a lot of challenges that will have impact on competitiveness, will have impact on the social dimension, as Brian mentioned, and which require policy strategic analysis, like this implementation plan that we have just listened. It was presented today, as well as proactive, it's very important, proactive action by the regulatory authorities as well as by the competition authorities. Also very important is internationalization of the European Union. And what I mean with this, I mean that for the competitiveness, for the growth, it is justified that we'll have agreements with other parts of the globe. It means that, for example, this TTIP that has been negotiated, at the moment it's also very important because we are talking of around 900 million people if and when this treaty will be finished between Europe, between the European Union and the United States. To have and to follow this global scope, it is very important investment. So it will be necessary a huge amount of investment, and we have here also ship owners on this room, and they know that either in ports, either on board of the vessels, in what concerns the first pillar that Brian has mentioned, I mean the environment. So to have more environmental friends on ports as well, on ships, it's necessary a huge amount of money. So it's necessary that schemes, that combined schemes, either from public funds, I mean member state funds, or European funds, together with private capitals will be necessary. I want also, as regulator, that we have some concerns, and I'm going to mention two main concerns at the time that there in Portugal that we feel. One concern is the lack of widely application of polluter pays or the user pays principles, because this through an asymmetric and inefficient taxation on the modes of transport can really bring lack of discussion on the competition. So it's very important these principles that can be mandatory. And I want, as an example of this, I want to mention some projects that have already finished, projects concerning the better green corridors. There are some projects finished, as I mentioned to you, like Costa project, also like Mid-Atlantic Eco-Bonus project, like the MOS project, that really have at the end also they demand green corridors and demand also a shift from modes of transport, not that doesn't pollute too much compared with railway or compared with the motorways of the sea. The second concern, I already mentioned it in several fora, either in Brussels, either there in Portugal. It's the case of the port operation contracts, because there is the duality. There is a duality, and this new directive concerning the concessions, so in general terms, I mean the directive 23 of 2014, really it applies only to port contracts of port concessions, not to all port operation port operations activities. It means that we can have here a very big lack of competition. To finish, I want to thank to José for everything that he has done during the 23 years. We are very serious on the commission, which he was really very much appreciated from all of us, from at least the shipping sector. And so thanks. I hope that you can follow, we can account with your advice, even that I'm older and some hair, white hair. So anyway, we count on you also to assist and help us. Also, I want to wish successful to Wojtek. Hope that even this method related with the sea are not very easy. Anyway, so I hope that I can also take this here, as José told, now with rail situations, and I know it's quite much better than the rail sector and road sector. I hope that anyway that you can enjoy the shipping sector, and that we are also very much welcome from our community. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, this study was not a post-mortem speech, so thank you very much for your support. And now, I mean, all these business cannot be done without resources. The man that is responsible for setting the strategic vision and how to use best resources on the CEF for transport development. Stefan Waki is the head of unit for CEF. And what is your fancy name of your unit? It's an investment strategist.
Yeah, thank you, José. Very good to be with all of you here today to make a brief presentation of where we stand. I guess that is going to work. Yes, it's going to work. second attempt. Okay, excellent. So I'll make a brief presentation of where we stand on funding and financing in this financing period. You know the tools that are available at EU level. We have the Connecting Europe facility, which is basically traditional grants and more financial instruments. And we have now more and more blending financial instruments, products like FC, which is the investment plan for Europe, so everything that is not grants, with grant money, and we are trying more and more to do this. So where do we stand in the implementation? Very, very briefly, we had a very successful first call where we allocated close to 13 billion euros. We just evaluated a second call. Member states have now to confirm the proposal of the Commission that Commissioner Bulc announced on Friday, and we propose to select about 6.7 billion euros of money out of the 7.5 that were available. But more and more, as you know, we are spending money in the form of financial instruments. We've been also quite active in the maritime field, in particular with the green shipping proposal that we took us about 2 years to put together with our colleagues of the European Investment Bank. And I have the pleasure to announce that on Thursday in the EIB board, on the 16th of June, 2 green shipping instruments were approved by the board, one under the Connecting Europe Facility financial instruments, and one under the FC. I will come back to that later, because this indeed is a massive success for demultiplying the impact of our EU funding in the maritime sector. The outcome, more precisely, of the 2015 call, generally, as I said, we have been also oversubscribed. For the MOS call, 12 proposals were selected under the general envelope for an amount of 88 million euros, and 1 proposal was selected under the cohesion envelope for an amount of 1 million euros. There will be a third call that will be launched at the end of September. The amounts are not precise yet at this stage. My commissioner will reflect in the coming weeks what to put between the different priorities, but here I will not, I would say, break a big secret to say that, of course, Motorways of the Sea will be part of the priorities that my commissioner will push forward for a call to be launched towards the end of September, with a deadline by the end of January 2017. But like I said, more and more we are trying to do projects that are combining the different instruments, in particular the FC. FC has been quite successful so far for transport. We had 12 transport projects that actually happened. This represents 8.5 billion euros of investments and an impact in jobs of 60,000 jobs created. You can see on the map here where these projects are located across Europe. And more precisely, here you have in red, in the list of the projects that have been selected, those that concern the maritime sector. As you can see, we have quite a number of them that concern your sector. Again, I already mentioned the green shipping facility that went through the EIB board last week. But we have also a certain number of fleet renewal projects in Spain, accessibility of port infrastructure, mostly rail, but also a bit of road for port infrastructure, again in Spain, a Euromed Ro-Ro project in Italy. All these projects, of course, are a good beginning, but we need now to scale up the possibilities offered under FC, and therefore encourage you to come and talk to us or to the colleagues of the European Investment Bank if you have a project that could benefit from it. At the same time, the FC is financing participation in multi-sector funds. Some of them, of course, are making big investments also in the maritime sector, and therefore we have now, I would say, an instrument that is starting to deliver also for transport and for the maritime sector. An example here that is worth mentioning is the accessibility of port infrastructure. Of course, some of these projects, you see all the ports that are concerned. Some of these projects are helped also by our grants under the CEF. So more and more, indeed, what we will be doing is blend the CEF grant component, and that is also valid for the third call, and the possibilities offered under FC. But again, this will happen on a case-by-case basis. The CEF FC is work in progress. Of course, we are testing different instruments. We are trying more and more to show the added value of the Connecting Europe facility in piloting projects and schemes that have been difficult to put in place in the past, in particular the deployment of alternative fuels in the maritime sector. This is why we spend quite a lot of time with the EIB on the green shipping facility, on which I will say a couple of words now. So the scheme was approved by the bank on the 16th in the form of two schemes, one under the Connecting Europe facility for the Netherlands and another one for Spain in the context of FC. The idea was that the one that we are piloting with the CEF in the Netherlands will be then scaled up under the FC, where of course the means of intervention are much greater, and this has already happened basically at the same time. Of course now we need to find good projects to finance under the schemes. The colleagues of the EIB will be now talking to the sector, and of course the goal here is to accelerate the deployment of environmental investment in the maritime sector. So more information about it to tell you how this has been set up into practice. I can give you more information if you're interested, if you contact me and my team more directly. But basically here, we are working through your partners in terms of commercial banks. It was thought by us to be easier to proceed in that way instead of reinventing the wheel and creating new, I would say, partnerships. And the guarantee of the EIB is given then for the part of the funding that concerns the environmental part, let's say, in retrofitting or buying new vessels. It's a risk-sharing framework agreement. The commercial banks, your partners, will be the contact points for dealing with you as beneficiaries. The EIB, of course, is backed up by the EU budget, otherwise it would be difficult for them to extend this type of guarantee mechanism, and we have determined with the EIB that up to 3 billion euros of investment could benefit for these schemes that, like I said, has been already approved by the EIB board last week. More and more we are turning towards blending, and this in particular will be important in the context of the next call. Blending has proven its value in some, again, of projects that touch upon the maritime sector, in particular the Port of Calais and Dublin in the call that we evaluated last year in July 2015, two projects on which we provided grant support to allow for an EIB loan to be granted, or a project bond initiative project to be granted. This, of course, is very important for us because it allows us to demultiply the impact of a limited budget when it comes to grant by helping to deploy a much greater amount of money in terms of investment. Of course, to help you to do all this, we realize that all this, I would say, combination of different instruments may be a bit daunting. The possibility also to engage between commercial banks with the EIB and structuring projects differently may be difficult. This is why we are financing the advisory hub at the EIB to help you with project ideas that you may have, how to structure it better, and I encourage you to contact directly the hub in case you have such a project. So I will just summarize now in order not to be too long. The key messages, of course, is that CEF grants are remaining part of the picture, of course, but they are limited, and therefore we need to be using this CEF grant in a more innovative way. The way we would like now to go is to try to use better this financial instrument and the possibility of blending grants with financial instruments. And we have also developed new tools that operationalize this concept of utilizing these new tools, such as the green shipping. So we remain, of course, open to discuss any project you would have, and I will conclude by putting here my name, my email address, and also a few websites for our partners in the EIB, but also for our executive agency, in case you would need more information about the grants, the calls, and also the schemes such as FC and green shipping that the EIB is doing in partnership with us. Thank you very much.
Smart money is never too long, so you were just in time. So thank you very much. This concludes our institutional session, the first part. If there is any question that cannot wait, I can still allow one question, then we'll move for the industrial stakeholder session, where we'll have Grimaldi lines, Stena lines, and the Greek Ship Owners Association. So that would be the two. Any question? What is your bank account number? That one, you go to the website and it will be. Well, thank you very much. Institutionalists, regulators, thank you very much for the support to Motors of the Sea. We will now go to the industrial stakeholders. Thank you.